I would like to say that we are incredibly honored to have with us the Associate Director of NASA's Kennedy Space Center, Kelvin Manning, where he works to propel the world's premier multi-user spaceport to advance America's leadership in space. His engineering career spans back to the 1990s at Kennedy, where he's worked on space shuttles Atlantis and Columbia, to becoming a first division chief for NASA's Orion spacecraft. He has also served on the last two NASA astronaut candidate selection boards. Please welcome Kelvin Manning.
Yeah, thanks, James and Lucinda. Thanks for that nice introduction. Following Rick's talk, yeah, I'm the guy from the government. I'm here to help, right? But I'm going to talk about the making of the multi-user spaceport, how we transform the Kennedy Space Center. So you look at this slide, and not that long ago, NASA Kennedy Space Center, we just had one customer. And we always say, like in the history of human spaceflight, only 3 nations have launched humans into Earth orbit. Of course, that's United States, Russia, and China. There's plans at the Kennedy Space Center on the Florida Space Coast for 4 commercial companies to launch people into space. And of course, SpaceX just made that major accomplishment happen with the Demonstration 2 mission. And we expect to see Boeing with their Starliner spacecraft, and then the Lockheed Martin Orion, and then Blue Origin as well. So, you know, STS-135, that Atlantis landing was in an error. And for better or worse, the United States space program was dominated by the space shuttle for the last 30 years. You know, the very next day after we landed, over 1,000 contractor employees received their termination notice. So, you know, there is a significant impact across the local community, the workforce, certainly state and nationwide. And as a result, with the retirement of that space shuttle and the cancellation of the Constellation program just a year prior, many people thought that the Kennedy Space Center was shutting down. You know, the space shuttle orbiters were decommissioned and sent off to museums, and, you know, they weren't coming back. I can remember, I think it was 2012, after Discovery was put on display at the Udvar Hazy Center in Dulles, standing in front of the orbiter looking up at it, and it was just surreal, something I really had never thought about, seeing the space shuttle in a museum. So we were searching, and but of course we weren't closing the Kennedy Space Center. You know, headquarters had given us direction to provide the ground infrastructure for SLS and Orion, as well as the commercial crew program. So our senior management team, led by our Center Director, Bob Cabana, we came up with this vision. KSC is the world's preeminent launch complex for government and commercial space access, enabling the world to explore and work in space. So the other thing that headquarters gave us, they gave us money to demolish facilities that weren't going to be required. And, you know, we had world-class processing facilities. At the time, we had no users, but just to tear them down, you know, in the words of the boss, that was just dumber than dirt. So, you know, we did a considerable effort in our strategic planning, who we were, who we wanted to be. And, you know, we like launching rockets. We like to see other people launch rockets. And our internal motto was, how do we bring smoke and fire back to the Kennedy Space Center? It was all about the smoke and fire. So, of course, there was a emerging commercial market. You see those bullets there, what the market was focused on. But there's no guarantee that they were going to come to Kennedy Space Center. And, of course, we didn't assume that anything was a given. So, again, these tools, you know, driven by a lot of legislation, like Mike Griffin said, you know, the functions of government promote the general welfare, and the government should work as an agent for economic development. And quick fact, Michael Griffin and I went to the same high school, so they taught us that government stuff pretty good. But, you know, the mindset was we wanted people to tell us how we could do something, tell us how we can, don't tell us how we can't. and give us that yes if answer. That was very important. You know, don't just tell us no. It's always easy to tell us no. Tell us, yeah, we can do it if we do this. And so right-sizing the infrastructure was a major part of our plans in those 4 categories. There were those facilities or structures that were unique to NASA and only NASA would use them. Then there were the shared ones that the government would use as well as commercial user. And then the non-NASA dedicated strictly to a commercial user. And then the ones that were just mostly outdated and had no use, we went ahead and demolished those. And the transformation was significant. You see some of the old facilities and where we ended up, the ones that were highlighted in green were actually demolished, and the ones with no X, those are the ones still remaining today. Plans were solidified and captured in our 20-year master plan, consistent with our vision and driven by these key tenets supporting the NASA missions and programs, divesting without diminishing, and going leaner and greener. And if you're curious, if you want to dive deeper into this, you can go just Google KSC master plan. And the outcomes have been, very productive, substantiated by our significant number of partnerships. You see those numbers there. Just going through some of the key ones. With Boeing, we worked with Space Florida to transfer what was previously the orbiter processing facility number 3, and they turned that into the C3PF, or commercial crew and cargo processing facility. And that's where they're doing the work for the Boeing CST-100. And that's a 15-year property agreement. You see the dates there. They launched OFT-1 in December, and we're looking for OFT-2 most likely early next year. Then SpaceX, a lot of talk about SpaceX today, that 20-year exclusive use lease agreement for Pad 39A. Since that first launch in February of 2017, I believe there's been 24 launches that followed that. So that is just amazing, the progress that they've made. And in fact, there's another launch off of 39A scheduled for this Sunday morning. The big major milestone, again, I talked earlier, that first crewed flight, returning astronauts launching from American soil on American rocket to the International Space Station. And then Lockheed Martin, we've been in partnership with Lockheed Martin through the state of Florida again. Space Florida provided $35 million to reconfigure the Neil Armstrong operations and checkout building high bay, and so they're processing Orion. Of course, we launched EFT-1 back in December of 2014, and looking forward to launching Artemis-1 on that first test flight atop the SLS next year. And then Blue Origin. A lot of people don't hear too much about Blue Origin, but if you come visit us across the street from the visitors complex, you see this mega rocket manufacturing facility going up, along with other buildings as well, not shown in the photo. And the first launch is slated for 2021 off of Launch Complex 36 on the Air Force side. Then Space Florida. Space Florida has been that economic driver for a lot of the partners coming in. You can see the facilities that they manage. And big thing is a exploration park. It's a business park, bringing new customers on board. I think, in addition to Blue Origin, Airbus OneWeb has a manufacturing facility there. Firefly just went into an agreement with Space Florida, and they plan on launching off of Launch Complex 20 on the Air Force side as well. Then Florida Power and Light, a little bit of a unique partnership. We give them the land, and they share some of the power generated. It's intended not strictly for the Kennedy Space Center, but for the local community. And next time you're in town, you look across the street from the visitors complex, you're going to see, this huge, that Discovery Solar Energy Center going up on almost 500 acres. And so, the United States, we have amazing fleet of vehicles. And I look, we don't show the Starship on here, but the potential is great for this country to return to the moon, Artemis, and onto Mars, without a doubt. And at KSC, I just wanted to let people know these are our programs. Of course, Commercial Crew, we're partnered with SpaceX and Boeing. The Launch Services Program, they're responsible for partnering those that have a need to launch a scientific payload with a launch provider, and then doing that integration work. Things from the weather satellites to different telescopes, observatories, to the Mars rovers. That's all managed through the Launch Services Program. Exploration Ground Systems, again, providing the infrastructure for SLS and Orion. Our portion of Gateway is deep space logistics, just the resupply portion of that. And our Exploration Research and Technology programs, that supports the International Space Station. And we do research, primarily plant research. That is all managed out of Kennedy Space Center. So this roadmap, again, pointing towards our exciting future, and just a little bit of a summary there. We plan on being busy coming up in the next few years. But the rest of the story, much of our success, it has to be tied to our Leadership for the Future initiative. How did you get to where you are today? This is a key component. It was created in response to our employees calling for more effective leadership. So if you look at the visual here, by focusing on the 5 leadership pillars: employees, organizations, customers, innovation, and collaboration, they raised the center upwards to meet the agency's goals to Moon and Mars initiative. And so I'm just going to run through them real fast. Employees, making it clear what's expected, based on our agency core values you see there on the wall. To be successful, our organizations can't be stovepipe. We can't overemphasize the importance of building relationships, and innovation, that the importance of diversity to drive innovation. We want people with different backgrounds to, bring what they have to the table. That those different backgrounds create that innovation to help us address the agency's challenges. Of course, when people think of NASA, they think of Apollo 13, Gene Kranz. Failure is not an option, but we also realize when we fail, we learn. And we need to understand our risk going forward. So when we fail smart. And we say failure is not necessarily a bad thing. If we fail smart, that's how we learn. And that collaboration, again, I can't overemphasize the importance of relationships. And, relationships with us starts with our senior leadership team. Our leaders set the tone. If people see our leaders getting along and working together as a team, they typically follow suit, which is a good thing. And so this Leadership for the Future, NASA's been the best place to work in the federal government for large agencies for the last 8 years in a row. The last rankings, Kennedy Space Center was the #1 NASA center. Out of all the sub components in the federal government, large agencies, like over 400, we were #3 in leadership, #5 in teamwork, #3 in innovation, #3 in diversity, among other top 10s. So we take this seriously, and it's truly a key to our success. Okay, that's who we are.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelvin. Does anyone have any questions? You can go ahead and raise your hand on the attendees. And looks like we have a question. I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Hi there. I was just, based on the previous speaker, there's a bit of conflict because I'm seeing everywhere the promotion of the Lunar Gateway. And then the previous speaker's saying the entire moonshot could be cancelled based on the next administration. And I'm just sort of, everything that you've proposed today and you know, presented across today is suggestive that NASA are working towards furthering space exploration. But it just seems a bit contradictory to what the previous speaker was saying.
Yeah, what Rick talked about, as well as our former administrator, Mike Griffin, you know, not a fan of Gateway. My take is, you know, we've created a flexible architecture. You know, do they want us to go to the moon first? We're going to go to Mars. And we will adjust as required, you know, and the gateway, that's the current architecture. We talked about the near rectilinear halo orbit and the resupply. That's what the agency is planning for it. And of course, the Kennedy Space Center, we're supporting that direction.
Do we have any other questions, panelists?
In spite of all the great work done by NASA, one of NASA's biggest weaknesses is that it is susceptible to political ego and political whim. With every new administration of all NASA's goals can be changed with a stroke of a pen. This is an election year and quite a contentious one too. What can NASA do to break this cycle? And has NASA approached the Biden campaign to see what his view of the Artemis program is?
Well, the second question, I'm not aware of that, and that's, as we would describe, above my pay grade. But what NASA can do, you know, NASA typically has bipartisan support from both parties. What we need to do, we need to deliver on our commitments, deliver a quality product on time and within budget. You know, if the government continues to do that, then we will retain that support. But again, it's not strictly a government operation. You know, those partnerships I talked about, the government serves as an enabler. You talk to Elon Musk, you talk to Gwen Shotwell, you see the relationship. I talked about relationships between the NASA team and the SpaceX team on the Commercial Crew Program. You know, it's a shared success.
Brandon, you want to go next?
Yeah, I was curious. We've kind of set some records this year on the number of hurricanes hitting the coast, and with a lot of NASA facilities along that coastline. Have you done anything to kind of harden those facilities against these increased hurricanes?
Well, you're talking about along the Gulf Coast. So, you know, we've been fortunate this year along the East Coast of Florida, but, you know, typically when we talk about hurricanes, our fortune is somebody's misfortune. And as far as hardening the facilities, no, I think for the most part, you know, you can safe the facilities. We've done things like at Kennedy, I could speak to that, you know, trying to beef up our shoreline. There's a huge sand dune project that we've been working for multiple years, and that's been successful. But, you know, okay, long-term, hardening of facilities, you got to think about it too. Most of the facilities are humongous, you know, and like the VAB, for example, it's designed to withstand, I believe, a Cat 4 hurricane. You know, and we've lost panels in the past, but we haven't, you know, had any structural damage inside of the facility. But you know, most is trying to, you know, safe things as best as possible and moving them out of harm's way where practical.
Hey, Kelvin, this is James Burk. Just want to ask you, what's it like to work at NASA? What's your favorite part of that? What do you enjoy about working at NASA?
So I've worked at the Kennedy Space Center for 28 years, and it is just awesome. The biggest thrill I get is sharing it with other folks. You know, we are very privileged to be in the positions where we are. And, you know, I'm a senior leader now, and I wasn't always a senior leader. Instead of Kelvin, you know, sometimes it's Mr. Manning. But now having, you know, the ability to bring more people in, to share what we're doing, to educate, you know, the next generation. We talk about STEM and inspiring folks. That just gets me going to work every day.
Hi, Kelvin. I have a couple of questions for you. One of them is asked from Andrea. She asks, as the future of human space exploration changes, what do you believe NASA will be looking for in its future astronaut candidates? I see that you've been on a couple of astronaut candidate selection boards.
Yeah, so I know the bio says 2, and I'm on this latest one as well. So that's 3 times. And for astronauts, you know, picking astronauts is just an unbelievable process. But the key to being an astronaut is one of the things that they teach you in kindergarten, the ability to work well with others. So, you know, you think about it, you're going on a long duration mission to Mars. You're going to be in a confined space with other folks. Well, you know, you got to get along. You got to have that give and take. Again, those relationships I keep harping on. Yeah, people are going to have the technical smarts. They're going to have the education degrees. They're going to, you know, meet the physical fitness criteria. But the thing that's hard to determine, that you can't really find on paper a lot, is somebody's ability to work well with others.
Yes, I completely agree with you. Teamwork makes the dream work, which is what astronaut Kelly says. Another question for you from Miroslav. He wants to know if how much collaboration in your work with NASA do they do with ESA, maybe in some of the projects that you work on?
Oh, quite a bit. So with ESA, you think about with the Orion crew module, the service module is provided by ESA, right? The European Space Agency provides a service module. A lot of our I know I'm not going to rattle them off the tip of my tongue, but a lot of our science payloads, the solar probe that we launched recently, that was also partnered with the European Space Agency. So quite a bit. And of course, the International Space Station, you know, I don't want to leave them out.
Well, do you have any lasting words for, I know I get a lot of questions, so I'm a STEM educator. I teach astronomy and a huge forward for education. That's one of the reasons why I became part of the Mars Society. They inspired me actually to go into science. But what do you have to say to young people who want to get involved? I always get a question, can I work at NASA? Or how do they get involved in furthering human space exploration?
So my words are never give up on your dream. One of my favorite quotes comes from the band leader, Duke Ellington. He says there are 2 rules in life. Rule number 1, never quit. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1.